Every episode of No Offsides podcast is brought to you by Champion Hockey. Be a champion.
No offside. Welcome back for another episode of No Offsides podcast, where we like to talk roller hockey. I'm Dan Dean,
I'm Justin Wood.
and this is our good buddy Jason, who came to travel with us. And we have our special guest today, and he played for Team USA, Mike Enright.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. How we doing?
Good, good.
Great man.
So,
Appreciate the invite. I know it's been a long time coming, but Mike Enright out of Long Island, New York. Been playing the sport for, I think since I was probably 8 years old. I'm now 47. Have a lot to be thankful for still playing the sport, and again, an amazing sport all the same. So I appreciate the time.
Yeah, man. We were really glad you're here.
yeah, I mean, so, we kind of interested on, because you've played for Team USA at Worlds and stuff like that. Like, what got you into hockey at such a young age?
I would say my father got me into hockey. My father ended up, when he was younger, going away to boarding school in Woonsocket, Rhode Island, in Mount St. Charles, and played there for 4 years as a boarding student. Lived there all year round, and learned how to play ice hockey by one of the greatest coaches in high school hockey, in Bill Belisle. And when he was, I guess, thinking about having kids, I was the first, and I was lucky enough to kind of grow up in the sport with him. Became a Ranger fan at a young age, and then learned how to start playing roller hockey, because ice hockey was expensive when I was a kid. And roller hockey out in the street, you're learning how to stick handle with a roll of tape instead of a puck. And the blades for the sticks were all plastic. Started out with Coho, or maybe even before that, the Brian Traudier stick from Milik, and then into Coho, and then Titan. And before you know it, you're playing in a checking league at 10 years old in Valley Stream, in roller hockey. And it was a fantastic sport back then. And I think there's something to be said when you find passion as a kid, that you stick with it and you make sure you find the right people around you to learn from, to become better at it. So I was fortunate enough to play against some really great, talented hockey players back then. And I'll share something that I don't think is really thought about enough, is where I grew up in Long Island. In the early 80s, the Islanders were a fantastic ice hockey team. They won 4 cups in a row. And the Rangers, my team, were the rivals. And if not for that rivalry back in the 80s, the Islanders winning 4 years in a row, that does a lot to an area when there's success in a hockey team. And that rivalry alone and that success from the Islanders built the sport up in Long Island, whether it was ice hockey or roller hockey, and developed some incredible talent out of Long Island, which I was fortunate enough to be around at that time.
So you grew up on Long Island?
Yep.
And, I mean, let's just get to the obvious question here. Why the Rangers and not the Islanders?
Good question.
That's a great question. I think back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, it's really where you grew up. It's not about what team you like the most. So I'll give you an example. If you were brought up in Brooklyn, you were a Brooklyn Dodger fan. You weren't a Yankee fan. If you were brought up in Queens, eventually you became a Met fan. You were not a Yankee fan. And that allegiance and that guidance, I think, kind of transcended into who taught you, right? So parents eventually moved from Brooklyn and Queens to Long Island, but that allegiance stayed with the move, right? So my grandfather brought me up in baseball. He was in Brooklyn, became a Met fan because the Dodgers left. My father grew up in the city as well. Became a Ranger fan, so it was natural that you're just being taught to be a Ranger fan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned was actually, which I mean, I can relate to it. You mentioned
The tape ball hockey?
the tape, like using because so I grew
I
up
knew he was
with
gonna say that.
electrical tape as pucks,
Yep.
Yep.
and
That was it.
that was me growing up playing roller hockey in the '90s. And so
Yeah.
that was like, you know, I mean, personally, I didn't know anyone else used electrical tape. I just thought my league was pretty poor. It was fun. it was full. So it was full check roller league, but we were using electrical tape as a puck, but it was pretty sweet. And then you knew the puck was bad when it just became oblong and it wasn't round anymore.
Yeah,
many
when
sides.
that middle wore out, you were in trouble.
Yeah.
But in the '80s, it was all tape. In the '90s, I would say mid to late '90s, it transferred over to that Jaffa speed puck. If your league was still playing with tape, yeah, you did have a poor league. So I'm not gonna say about that. You got to raise the entry fee, bud.
Yeah.
Well, your league was also full check as well, right?
Yeah, from 7, 8, and 9-year-olds, you went out there as a age line, and then it was full check.
But it was great. It really taught you how to hit and defend yourself at the
Yeah.
same time. And we were on quads back then.
Yeah, so we had kids that were either on quads or transitioning, and that was like the transition time. And then I also spent a lot of time in the box because we had girls in the league, and I had one on my team. And whenever anyone touched her, I usually took a penalty. So
That's admirable. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not married.
Things,
I was gonna say.
no, my wife did not play hockey.
yeah, things have certainly changed now. They don't let you hit until you're 14. There's positives and negatives to that. I think you can look at both sides, but growing up, learning how to hit and learning how to take a hit, I think is important. And we had a lot of that. And then you weren't playing kids your own age all the time either. You're playing against kids that are 3, 4, 5 years older than you. At first, it's scary, like anything else, right? When you're 10 years old, but you develop a way to survive. You develop a way to fight back. And I think that skill set allows you to succeed not only in sports later in life, but just in life in general.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you're talking about hitting. All right. What do you think about the level of physicality that you're seeing in roller nowadays?
It's interesting. I think the different levels, whether it's pro or whether you're playing gold or whatever it is, they allow them to bump. They allow them to play physical against the boards. I think there's a gray area there that maybe the player doesn't understand, or maybe the ref won't explain well enough. I think at the end of the day, you either let them go or you don't let them go. And if you don't let them go, you need to keep it within the rules. If you let them go, then there are going to be consequences to that as well down the line. So a kid can really get hurt, not wearing equipment or not expecting to get hit. But I like the bumping along the boards. I don't think open ice hits should be allowed really in inline hockey. But when you're fighting for that puck on the wall, I think there should be some kind of physicality in there.
Well, and we all know from just playing, especially against each other.
Yeah.
We get pretty physical on the board. So
Yeah, boards is where you're supposed to.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, like you look at the pro scene too, right? And you go, if you are a viewer of like European roller hockey, you can't touch anyone. But then you look at just North American pro circuit in the summer, and you're like, these guys can almost get away with a full body check on the boards, as long as the guy's still on his feet. So it's kind of you get guys that play over in Europe. Like I could say, over last weekend, I watched the France Championship, and you had Di Martino and why can't I think of his name? Plays for the Snipers, but they were playing against what?
Novak, are you thinking of?
No, I can't think of his name. They were playing against each other, and the first penalty of the game was those two defending. One was defending the other, and they ran into each other. And the ref was like, "Both of you, go to the box." And they were like, what, really? So, like, Europe is just like, no contact, don't touch anyone. And then you come to North
Yep.
America, and they're like, depends on what mood the ref's in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Our first tournament in the Masters, the 38th, I think it was 2016. We had 8 skaters, maybe 9 skaters, and we went over there not knowing we'd play an Olympic-sized rink, not knowing we'd have 22-minute stop time periods.
Mhm.
We didn't know any of that. We didn't even know that inline hockey was that intense over there as far as the focus internationally. And we got there and we found out the hard way through a lot of penalties that were called there that normally were not called in the States. We ended up going to the finals that year. We played against Czech, and that was the first time I saw cycling in all 3 zones by a hockey team. I've never seen that in my life before, and it was there was a certain beauty to it, if you will, instead of just run and gun going north-south like Americans do. But the refereeing was a big adjustment for us, but that's what makes the game interesting, and I think that's what makes players great. If you can adapt to your environment, just like we talked about the hitting piece, if you can adapt to the environment, knowing the rules going in, that makes that player even that much better. So it takes some time to adapt, but if you can do it, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about adaptability, right? I mean, how has the game changed, even from, I guess, when you were younger?
I'll tell you what's interesting is when you have players that maybe are like 10 years apart. Say you have like someone like myself playing a 35 or a 30-year-old division at 47. I grew up playing a different game where it was very physical. And if you're playing that physical game against someone who's 22, 25, 28, 30, there's definitely going to be a lot of complaining. There's definitely going to be a lot of frustration because they're not used to the game that you're used to. And I'm used to hearing that, but that's how I grew up. I grew up playing one way. I grew up, playing physical and getting beaten around a little bit when I was younger because that's how it was. I mean, you're playing against guys that in a summer tournament, they might be playing in the IHL or AHL, getting 300 penalty minutes a season, but they're doing roller hockey for fun. And that was our season during the summer. But if you're playing against the younger generation, they're not used to any of that, whether it's a slash or a little cross check or a bump. That really sets them off their game, and there's definitely a conversation that has to happen with that. So
Yeah.
I think the game has changed from the physical aspect, not necessarily with the puck all the time. It's without the puck that game has changed.
Well, it's interesting too because when you said American hockey, you said, just run and gun, but now we've kind of found the opposite where now everyone says that European hockey is more run and gun and American hockey is more possession and cycling.
Yeah, I think American style of possession is hold it and wait and wait and wait. Maybe not necessarily cycling as much.
Okay.
Because our version is more, let's take it back, let's go behind the net, let's kill time, and wait for the referee to say move it.
Okay.
And there's a big argument in that where should we institute a rule where you can't, once you cross the half line, can you not go back over your line to kill time? The argument can be on both sides. But European inline, they're cycling in their own zone, they're cycling center ice, and they're cycling in the offensive zone to the point where they plan on taking advantage of someone making a mistake just by cycling. And it works until you figure out how to combat that. And for us, like as we developed to play inline overseas, combating that is really going after it where it starts, and that's in their zone behind their net, and just preventing their cycle from starting in the first place.
Yeah. Like a solid forecheck.
Yeah. So solid.
I'm a big fan of that personally. I usually play defense, but I like playing forward specifically to forecheck.
Yeah. And if you do it the right way, they can't get it started.
Yeah. Just
And,
annoy the heck out of them.
Them.
Yeah. It's very fun to. That's one of my favorite parts about hockey is frustrating the other people.
Well, it's like, I mean, what do you typically play a certain system when you play roller hockey, especially at the age that you're at? Like, 'cause guys like to play either man or a 1-1-2 into a box. Like, what do you typically play?
Yeah, the 1-1-2 into a box works with faster teams. Man on man, if you can stay up at pace with them, if it's a smaller rink, I think man on man works really well too. There's other theories that you can do a triangle where you're forcing all of play into the action into a half wall where there's nowhere for them to go and they have to go back with the puck. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. And that triangle would require, instead of the 1-1-2, that second man back would become part of the triangle and you're just pushing to one area, kind of like a funnel, if you will.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. I think you really need to be honest with yourself and figure out what kind of team you have, not what kind of team you wish you had.
Yeah.
And then just be honest and go with that strategy.
That's good advice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
wise, good point.
I mean, and
Like,
being in my 30s and going up against these guys that are in their late teens and early 20s. I mean, you gotta realize that going man on man might not be the best thing. So you go into like a 1-1-2 into a box, and you let these kids skate around the outside and let your goalie take shots. Like,
but everyone has to be on the same page with that.
yeah,
Yep.
And if they're not, then you're going to be in for a world of hurt, regardless of how talented the team is, right?
yeah,
Everyone wishes they were, with the same level when they were 20, 22, 23, but you're playing the sport for a reason, right? And I think honesty is a big part of it, and integrity. And if you maintain that, you'll be able to continue to play. But that involves the strategy as well. What are you good at, and what is the delta, or where are the gaps that you have, and just adapt to that.
Yeah.
no, it's definitely. I mean, yeah, like I said, it's good advice to kind of know yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so one of the things that we asked you, like, what you want to talk about, you were talking about like wanting to give back to the sport, right? What are some ways that you give back, or what are some ways that you believe that people just in the sport can just give back to the roller hockey community?
I think the first thing is to figure out where you can make time. Again, being honest with yourself, where you can make time. Once you figure out where you can make time, maybe push yourself a little more and say you can give a little bit more. Once you have that, then you can decide on how you want to give back. So for me, it's really important, the coaching aspect, giving back, whether it's ice or inline. I've been fortunate to play with so many great players and so many players that taught me that I want to give back to the kids so they can learn, whether it's coaching a team or doing individual clinics. You want to make it easy and adaptable for the kids to understand, and that takes some interpersonal savvy. You really need to get down to how they can listen and learn and speak in terms that they understand. You can't be an adult when you're teaching kids. You have to be on their level. For one of the things that I love the most, I mentioned before that my wife is from Brazil. It's important that we see what areas of the world need help, what areas of the world are hungry to learn. Brazil has a phenomenal inline hockey program in many different areas, especially in Sao Paulo. There's an area called Amparo, which is about 2.5 hours outside of the main city of Sao Paulo. And they have about 3 or 4 rinks, and every floor is still mat.
Oh,
So
nice.
think about that.
Wow.
They have 4 rinks in a town, and it's covered by still mat.
Wow.
Wow.
And the reason they can do that is because the government in that town helps with the funding. The government in that town sees that they have a large population that is interested in the sport, and they support it. So for me, I mean, I know so many people. Everyone knows a lot of people that play hockey, and everyone has equipment. So every year, what I like to do is just ask friends, family, whoever has equipment they don't need, and to donate. And I'll go down with as many bags as possible that I can carry, sticks, equipment, whatever, I'll call some individuals from Amparo. Shandy Alexander out down in Brazil. He runs a great program. I'll connect with him. I'll volunteer my time to do clinics and then bring equipment down. And the amount of appreciation from not only the kids, but the parents of the kids, it's like Christmas morning for them. Something is as easy to obtain as a stick or wheels for us, gloves, helmet, it's really hard for them to get.
Yeah.
So to give back like that when our dollar is worth 5 times their dollar, you think about the cost.
Yeah.
Think about the accessibility. There's nothing better than giving back like that. And I'm not saying everyone has to do that, but it feels good when people do this out of the kindness of their heart, donating sticks, donating skates, gloves, whatever it is, and then to offer that to the kids, it's pretty special. I would also say that the clinics having someone from North America support their program and have a different perspective on how to play the sport. But let me tell you, Brazilian inline hockey is getting very, very good, really quick.
Yeah.
Really quick. So you can't sleep on them when you play them because they do not stop skating.
Yeah,
They're a pain in the ass, and they do not stop.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, that when I've talked about it in the past, it's like I think it's the Chinese Taipei team that just dominated worlds the past time around through like the younger ages. It's like, it's like what we do. Who knew that they even had such a successful program or program at all?
Mm-hmm.
And so like we're lucky enough that we actually have a guy, a young kid in his late teens or early 20s that's actually going to be joining us from Brazil in the near future. So we're actually going to.
Is this a podcast reveal?
Oh, you're talking about on the podcast.
Yeah, on the podcast.
Oh.
Yeah. So like it's great that you're mentioning Brazil and everything because we're going to have a young kid from Brazil on the podcast within maybe the next month or two.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it's whatever you can do to spread, your knowledge around the world for the sport, to grow the sport. I think everyone has their passion points. It's up to us, players that are older in the sport, to give back. That's how you keep the sport going.
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to look up Rodrigo Santo.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's great because you have groups like
Guadarrama's group in Mexico.
Guadarrama's group in Mexico. You have what's the guy, the group from Texas that goes to different countries as well.
Is that Farm Tough?
Farm Tough, yeah. Farm Tough.
Yeah.
He does
So
that guy.
Peter Dale, I played against growing up for years, and we had battles for years. And he has a very, very similar mindset in that you need to grow the sport, you need to give back. And what he's doing is fantastic work. He's working with Brazilian hockey players and players from actually all over South America and trying to offer scholarships for inline hockey to Lindenwood University. I actually went to Lindenwood University and played hockey there, so I know the program. They do a great job.
They dominate college hockey.
Yeah,
the only school that gives out scholarships.
Yeah, that'd be really cool if you found a different college to compete against Lindenwood. You know what I mean? Yeah, because they need somebody.
He's a lion. He doesn't want to do that.
Yeah, that's true.
Lindenwood's my alma mater, so to speak, and they offered a lot for me and getting my degree while playing ice and inline for them. So it's a fantastic institution, and I'm happy that Peter's offering that support and giving some kid who never in a million years thought that he would be able to play or she would be able to play inline hockey in the United States and get an education at the same time. So bridging that gap is just another stepping stone to making the sport better.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and we've talked, like we bring up college hockey every now and then, and it's kind of exploded on the scene more recently. You have something between 20 and 30 D3 teams that are registered for, and like I guess whatever, I don't remember the divisions that they're set. I don't know if they're NCAA or not. But yeah, for like just college roller hockey, you have all over the East Coast into the Midwest, and then you have teams out in like Cali and Colorado that are, it's just the whole entire scene is just filled where, and then teams kind of, it's nice that teams are able to fluctuate between being D1 one year and then they're like, oh, we lost a bunch of our good players, we can move down and then rebuild and then move back up.
Yeah, I mean, the sport is a lot more approachable. Players that can't afford ice can play inline. Colleges that can't afford an ice program can offer hockey, and you can play it all year round. So I think as long as you have the means to supply it for the college athletes, do it. And it's blown up, like you said. There's opportunities in coaching, there's opportunities in playing, and then getting your degree at the end of the day is the main goal I think every player should have.
What are you doing right now as far as yourself and playing?
Good question. Right now I'm doing ice 2 nights a week. I'm doing inline twice a week. The inline is either it's interesting, the inline is either in Long Island or it's in New Jersey, and it's real early in the morning that we'll play, but it's worth it because there's no traffic.
Yeah.
Ice is 2 nights a week, really local to where I am, and we have our own private skate. And then tournaments here and there. So whatever you can do, I think at my age to keep the legs going is important. I recently took up stretching because that's really important. As you get older, you lose your mobility, and that's been working out really well. But yeah, I would say 3 to 4 times a week religiously playing hockey.
That's the dream.
That is the dream. I mean, it's
Yeah.
nice to have the opportunity to be able to do that.
It's tough balance of life with the wife and kids, right? You wanna make sure you're as transparent as possible, that they know what they're getting into. At the same time, you have to also give back in a way that's going to balance that relationship out too. So
Yeah, a couple date nights, right?
that's it. A little give and take.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Date night, flowers, nice dinner.
that's it.
How many times did you play with Team USA?
I think this will be my 7th.
Wow.
I never played when I was younger with with IHF. I never played in that organization, but 38s I played when I was 38, 2016, and then went on. So with COVID, it's either 6 or 7.
Okay.
We earned silver 4 times, which is bittersweet, I guess you could say.
Hey, I mean, it's nice to medal. It's also nice to win too.
Aren't we 3 silvers in a row? We know how that
Yeah,
feels.
we know. Yeah,
Yeah.
we know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But did you lose? Did you lose in a shootout?
No, that is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
That's
Oof.
terrible that
Yeah.
you guys lost the last time in a
Yeah.
shootout. That's terrible.
We didn't know that was a thing until it was a thing. So that was bittersweet.
Yeah,
So
I bet your goalie didn't talk to you guys for a while, huh?
yeah, it was like football or
Took his arm
soccer
back.
rules, right? It's the end of the World Cup and you're in a shootout against Argentina or something like that. So,
Yeah.
but a great experience though.
So every time you play for Team USA, is it always in the same place?
No. Well, yes, no. You want to make sure that the facility is going to be able to handle between 25 and 35 teams, right? So you need a facility with 2 rinks. You need a facility that has hotels near. So it's been in Bolzano, Italy, a couple times. It's been in Brunico, which is literally an hour and 20 minutes north of Bolzano, Italy. The last 2 times it's been there. It's been in the Czech Republic once before. It's been in Asiago. And this year it's going to be in Jaca, Spain, which is like in the north near the Pyrenees Mountains.
Okay.
So,
I mean, Spain
excited for
Spain
that.
does love their roller hockey, so
Yeah.
yeah, they really do. And I just love traveling and seeing culture and meeting people from different parts of the world. And whether it's your local bartender or your local scorekeeper, it's great to just connect and have conversation with people. Helps this year that I speak Spanish and instead of trying to learn Italian, so communication will be a little easier. But looking forward to seeing this part of the world.
Which one of the international teams, which other nation has I don't know the right way to ask this. When they're talking crap to you guys, who seems like they're doing it the best?
What's the international church?
Yeah.
You know what's funny? It's not so international when the shit talkers are coming along, because I think Team Canada has a great way about them when it comes to talking shit back and forth. Their chirps are pretty funny. The Czechs and the Slovaks don't say a word. They're like pieces of iron.
That's scary.
Yeah.
It takes a while to get them off their game. The Italians are funny, and the French curse in their own native language. They're very, they're like robots.
Yeah.
But the Italians are funny. Because the Italians and Spanish are very similar in language. I can get along talking shit back and forth with them, but I would say the funniest are probably the Canadians.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go back and forth with them a lot.
That sounds like a good time.
And oddly enough, the refs, we mentioned the refs before. The refs like to see us just beat the shit out of each other, to be honest with you. So
Really?
they don't call much when we play each other.
Nice.
Wow.
Which is ironic.
Because they're like, oh, the North
That's very
Americans, screw
funny.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if we're playing Italy or France, it's you can't sneeze on them because they'll dive or
That's typical.
take the call. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Their plan is probably let these two North American teams beat the living crap out of each other.
100%.
And this way, when they play the European teams, they're tired, they're beat up.
Have you ever heard of
At
them?
least,
Oh, go ahead.
at least it seems that way. I mean, I could be totally wrong, but that's what I feel anyway.
The Canadian team slipping them a couple toonies to let it go.
They look at it and they're like, "What the hell is this?" Get out of here.
Do you see with Brazil getting big? Do you think that they could ever host an international tournament?
Yeah, actually, when I was down there over the summer, we were talking to Shandy, and what's interesting is that, like I said before, they have so many rinks, all with still mat.
Yeah.
If I'm not 100% if they have the right amount of hotels ready to go to house all the teams, but they do have the ability to handle that, and it would be a wonderful trip. People from all over the world going to Brazil would be fantastic. Brazilians treat people like family. Doesn't matter where they're from, who they are. There's something to be said about people that are happy living in a 3-room home, and there's 10 of you in the room, right? They're the happiest people in the world. Americans, we have everything, we have all the room, and sometimes we're the most miserable people in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
So
we just
it'd be a
dropped
wonderful-
like 23rd in the world.
I'm sorry?
We just the United States, like the happiness index, we just dropped like several points. Sorry,
Yeah.
random, but
Just being honest, when you're there, it's they have nothing and they give you everything. So it's a wonderful experience when you go there.
well, I hope that they get a tournament, man. That'd be awesome. It'd make all that
Yeah, they
still
do
not
little.
worth it.
They do those little tournaments, which are more like South American, and they'll invite some North American players down. Competition's great, and they pack out with fans too.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you think how do they play as far as physicality down there?
They're not very physical, but they're always in your face. They don't need to be physical. They don't give you much room. Excuse me. They don't give you much room. They play. It's similar to how they play football down there. They're very strategic with where they are, and now they're starting to develop the hockey part of it, which is interesting because once they get that down, look out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they dominated football, soccer forever.
Yeah, 100%.
Really cool. You got any questions for him, Jason?
Yeah. Was there any overseas teams or anything like that you could tell had like a different vibe, play style, like culturally? Like, why do you think physicality is not such a big part of European and South American games?
I don't think that was ever brought to their culture when it came to inline hockey. I also think that they're used to playing on larger rink surfaces, that if you go to hit somebody and you miss, it's always an odd man rush the other way. On a smaller American rink, you can make up for that mistake. But when the rink is that large, puck possession is so important, and just making sure you're not overcommitting. So when it comes to like the Czechs, the Italians, the French, they're just in your way, but they're not trying to hit you. They're just in the right spot every time, and you have to make sure that you're not retaliating in a way that would get that ref to make that call.
Yeah.
So.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So did you ever notice a different country with a completely different game plan or play style that surprised you guys or caught you off guard at all?
Besides the Czechs that first year, no, to be honest with you, it's, I'll tell you what does get you by surprise is just the size of some players that play inline from like Slovakia, Slovenia, some Germans. Like you have some really big players that played organized ice, either semi-pro or pro somewhere. And the way that they can move at their age and their size is so impressive. Like you could tell, like they're true professional athletes.
That's awesome.
You know, and they're always in shape. Like you hear about, like what's his name, Chara leading the team in pull-ups and doing marathons. There's a reason for that. It's bred in them since they were kids. Like Yager's still playing. There's a reason for that. Like, these are true athletes. They don't sit still.
Yeah.
And if you don't credit that, or if you disrespect that, you'll be taken advantage of real quick out there. So it's I would say not so much the way they play anymore, but just the ability to move and their conditioning is really impressive.
I don't think we pay very much attention to conditioning here. I don't.
No, I mean, I think as a society, they've probably gotten lazier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, we've talked a little bit about changes in roller hockey. I mean, are there any changes to the sport that you think that you would either like to see or you think should happen?
It's interesting. The NHL, they're looking to take certain things out of the game to maintain the speed of the game. I think inline hockey should look at that as well. It could be something around not taking the puck back over the midline, but there needs to be some kind of rule where the speed is continuous, the play is continuous, and you're not playing safe. You say safe is death in a lot of sports. It's really important that you're always moving. I think this sport has a lot to offer, and especially 4-on-4, there's so much room out there. Just keep moving the puck. And again, I don't know what that rule is or what that rule will be, but we need to take a look at that as a society in this sport, and maybe come up with something that'll change the game for the better. I know there are a lot of smart people in this sport, a lot of influential people. I know we've had many a conversation late nights at the local tavern with Rob Chernow from Levada about not being able to bring the puck back, and it's personal preference, but I also think to keep the sport evolving, there needs to be some kind of adjustment.
Yeah, I mean, you see some of the stuff like can't bring it back on a delayed penalty.
Yeah.
There's also some tournaments or leagues do the 10-second rule, sitting behind your net, just to kind of speed the game up and get the game moving, so that you're not stalling out. So I mean, some of those, I mean, they all have a reason for it, but not everyone follows it. So it like you said, it's all preferential and what people believe to kind of how they see the sport to go. I mean,
Sure.
And I feel like, as much as like North America, and we have the 3 big tournament series of Tours, Narch, and State Wars, I still feel like, as much as they work together to schedule their tournaments, I still feel like as a whole we're not collectively,
Like an overarching body.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
and like
Yeah.
we're still so separate but still together.
Yeah,
but that
no,
would
it's a
give
good
the
point.
opportunity
But
for
that's
one tournament series to do odd rule change and just let them try it out for one time.
Yeah.
If anything, I think to your point, these tournament organizations, they're all privately owned, right? But if you want to really make change, those three organizations can come together and say, hey, let's see how this works in all three tournaments series this year. And maybe it will work. Maybe it won't. Who knows? But it's not going to, you don't know until you try. So it might be a great idea to influence that way, to really get the greater population on board.
Yeah. And, I mean, changes in ice hockey as well have come along, and people always end up complaining at first, but then, within a season, nobody cares. And nobody's talking about it anymore. So,
yeah, like no one knew the goal Brett Hull scored was a good goal against Dominic Hasek in that playoff Stanley Cup final when his foot was in the crease. We didn't know the rule changed,
yep.
But now that the rule changed, everyone loves the rule. But at the time, it was a dagger in the heart of everyone from Buffalo. But it was a better rule, because how much are you really impeding the goalie's movement in that play? You're really not.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think we learn from history, and I think you can improve the sport in a lot of ways. It's just a matter of, are you on board with making the change, or you not want to make a change?
How much do you think the creation, or I mean, I don't know how long it's really been around, but the recent adaptation of still mat to rinks has changed the game? Do you see that having made a big difference in the game?
I do. Still mat is like a delicate flower, I want to say. You need to take care of it.
Yeah.
It can't just be thrown down and say, okay, go skate for the next 10 years. There's reasons why there are little tiny knobs sticking out above the main surface of the floor. There's little triangles, right? There's reasons why the puck works with that floor. You need to clean it. You need to maintain it. You need to take care of it. And if you don't, the longevity of that floor will be cut in half. And I think a lot of organizations are buying the floor because it's the next best thing. And believe me, it is. I'm sure you skated on it. It is a great floor. But you need to clean it. You need to take care of it. It's not the old sport court where you can, treat it like garbage, and then 10 years later it'll still be good.
Yeah.
There's a reason why it's expensive. There's a reason why it's a great floor. And it's because you take care of it.
Yeah, I mean, you go to all these different the rinks that are still standing today, and they're usually the old sport court, and they look like they haven't been dusted in years, right? But you're still able to stop and skate on it, and it still works. But then, for instance, I don't know if you've gone to the Nashville rink.
Yeah.
Right. So, love sport court, love the puck, nice fast surface. But it's just one of those things where they clean it so often because they have like a Zamboni, and they try their best to keep that surface as clean as possible. But when you have outdoor elements, you can't put on the brakes as hard as you want, because you're just going to slide out. No matter what wheels you have, no matter what equipment you have, it's just one of those things where there's just so much
Debris.
Yeah.
Debris.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, that rink is a dual rink. It has a roof over it, right? The same rink we're talking about, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a farm right by it. There's a lot of wind. There's a lot of dust.
Yep.
You're going to have debris flying all over the place, right? I know Timmy brought in Sport Court when we had that fall tournament, which was, I'm sorry, not Sport Court, Stillmat, which was a phenomenal decision, and the weather was perfect. It was a great environment to be in. But again, you're up against some uncontrollables out there.
Yeah. And it's just unfortunate, too, because, like, even the way it's built now, there's still so much potential that, it's as we all know, we go there quite often.
Yeah.
It's, you just never know if you're ever going to have your full tournament. So.
Depending on the dew point.
Yeah, at the dew point, is it going to rain? Is the rain coming in sideways? So. I just feel like as much as it's great for the roller hockey scene, like if you're gonna go all in, it's got to be done right in order to keep the scene there.
Mhm.
You know, so, and I think
Well,
that's
they're making lemonade out of lemons. You know what I'm saying? Like they're trying to make the best of their situation. They may not have the money and the budget to put walls on the side of it, but they're doing the best they can,
Yeah.
I think, with what they have.
Definitely.
And it helps that they're near a great city in Nashville,
Yeah.
which is phenomenal to hang out in. It was my first time there last year or 2 years ago. But that's part of the attraction as well. Like you're going to offset. Okay, it's a fall tournament. It's not as impactful in the summer, but I have Nashville to hang out with my friends, and it's going to be a nice time to get away from the day-to-day grind back home. And you gamble, like you said, you gamble on that weather happening. So fortunately for us, it was great weather. I couldn't complain.
yeah. I mean, or if you're PJ, you just gamble on whether you're gonna be able to be awake for your game.
I heard about that. That was in our car ride down to Atlanta. Which, by the way, you want to talk about rules in the game? Atlanta had that rule where it's jailbreak.
Yeah.
If you're on a penalty kill and you score, your guy comes out. I love that rule. That was my first time playing with that rule.
I loved it too because I got released from the box. So that was fantastic.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. PJ, I heard fell asleep. He was working really hard the night before and needed some extra rest, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Semifinals and the finals.
Is that bad?
Oh god, he even slept through half the next game, which was our game.
Hey, he was on our bench.
Yeah, he was on our bench.
Well, he was there in spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah. He opened up. We talked to him about it. He's good with it. We're not going behind him.
Yeah, it's funny.
What do you got that you're looking forward to hockey wise? You got anything coming up?
Yeah, there's a lot coming up. I mean, we just had tryouts for next season's ice hockey, which is it's crazy how they have that. So we just finished tryouts there. We have Winter Wars East coming up in Pennsylvania in mid-April. I'm excited for that, playing 35s and 45s.
Nice.
And then we're ramping up for the summer. I work with MIWA, so it's the organization for the International Masters, Veterans, and Legends Tournament. And that, like I said, is in Haka this year, June 10th to June 15th. But I'm on the board of marketing and promotion. So on top of getting Team USA settled and ready to go with our 3 teams, I'm also looking to support MIWA and growing that organization and getting some sponsorship money that way. So it's a lot of work. It's something that I was very honored to be offered, and I love helping out and I love supporting. So David Ninzati and Peter Wirt, who are the presidents of the organization, I love working with them, and it's going to be a big deal coming June. So I'm excited to see the fruits of our labor, so to speak.
Okay.
So a lot's happening. Then after June, you have State Wars rather in St. Louis this year, and then I go to Brazil again for another trip and do a couple clinics down there. So it's packed, and I'm fortunate to have people support me doing this, like my wife and kids and things like that. So I feel lucky.
Yeah, it's awesome. I was gonna say something. So the MIWA does the live stream of games, right?
Yeah.
Do they do that on their website, or is that through YouTube, or what is that?
It's through YouTube. So there's an announcer for every game. The announcer will have people to interview during the games. They'll announce every 38 and over division, and they'll announce the playoffs for the veterans and the legends as well. So it's a lot. But the Peter Wirt, he's the announcer as well for the games. He does a fantastic job. But it's great when you have all the hits coming out from overseas and all over the world watching this brand of hockey. Last year's final was Team USA versus Team Canada, and the speed in this game was just tremendous. You show your friends back home, they don't know inline, they would have thought it was ice hockey. So.
Cool.
And the nets are 5x3. They're not 6x4. So you're scoring on a 5x3 net, and that's pretty special as well. So
Yeah, If you shoot the puck over the net on the North American nets, then you're in trouble for European nets.
That is correct. That is correct.
That's why you shoot 5-hole.
Yeah.
5 holes always the
Always
same
love
spot.
That's right.
What's your go-to move? You got something that's just been your bag of tricks for a while?
I'm pretty conservative when it comes to playing. To be honest with you, I pass a lot.
Yeah.
I love shooting backhand. That's a huge, whether it's pass or shoot. Backhand's my favorite. When I play with Mike Group in ice hockey, like before I'm about to shoot, they're yelling backhand, backhand. They know when I'm to shoot. But I think I was taught at a young age backhand is the most deceiving shot in hockey, and I love teaching it too. So backhand is my favorite.
What's the key to a backhand?
The key to a backhand is to know where to keep your weight when you're shooting. Wrists and your weight. It's so important. It's just the blade alone. If you're shooting low on your blade, on your puck rather, your blade needs to be over the puck, and if you're shooting up, your blade needs to be opened up a little bit. But as much as you're shooting forehand with your weight forward, you have to be on your weight forward on your backhand as well. That's where the power is going to come from.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, a lot of players are shooting backhand with their weight back, and there's no power involved. So maybe I'm a lefty. I don't know. I shoot righty, but I think the backhand is super important. To be honest with you, I throw lefty, I bat lefty, I play hockey righty, I golf lefty, I write righty.
Oh,
so,
interesting. You golf lefty but play hockey right?
Yeah, I'm a mess.
That's pretty interesting. Maybe you are a lefty. You're right.
I don't know. I think it's where the hands are. If the hands are close, I have to be one way. If the hands are far, I'm another way.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Very cool, man. What do we want to do?
I mean, we figure we might as well let you go. We'll do some rapid fire questions for you.
Sure.
All right, don't think about this too hard. All right, what's your favorite rink you ever played at?
Brunico.
All right.
Brunico in Italy in the Miwa finals.
Is that the same one that Ferrara was talking about? Is that where you playing with Ferrara on that one?
Yeah, it's a new ice facility for the Serie A in Italy, and it's built into the ground. It's phenomenal.
Interesting.
I think it might be the same. Yeah.
Yeah. What sport outside of hockey do you think translates well and helps you be a better hockey player? Or activity?
What sport or activity translates well? I would say soccer.
Yeah, that's
Possession, moving the ball, and not rushing the play.
yeah.
What stick are you rocking?
Right now I'm rocking Champion.
Okay, which
Give a
one?
Shout out to my boy Chris Ferrara. The Legacy.
Nice.
The Legacy. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you use
And
for a curve?
I'm caught between patterns right now. It's like mine's in a pretzel right now when it comes to patterns. I've used the PM9 my whole life, and then I started using a little bit more of a curve. Sometimes the curve's too much. I need something in between a PM9 and a P28. So if you know anyone out there, please let me know.
There's always a blowtorch.
Yeah, it's
Do the blowtorch and do the Ovechkin method until you get called illegal.
Yeah, I gotta flatten out the P28 a little bit.
Yeah. What's your favorite trait in a line mate?
My favorite trait in a line mate, I think, is somebody who has just spatial awareness and is always looking around to see what will happen instead of what that person is going to do right away. There needs to be a way you see around corners and find out what's going to happen in a play or two without just running and gunning and losing the opportunity you have. So I guess patience would be what I look forward to.
Very cool. Do you have a memory from roller hockey that really stands out, like one specific one?
Yeah, I would say when I was 17, and I really, really wanted to play with this with the pro team from Valley Stream. It was, we just started playing tournament hockey, and I felt that I can compete with the older guys, and I really wanted to skate with like Eric Weishabama, Ziggy Marzadelis, Ziggy Marzalak, Chris Manzadelis, and those guys. I looked up to them. They were phenomenal hockey players out of Valley Stream, and I felt I was on their level. And I went up to one player, who shall remain nameless, right? And I said, hey, I think I can play with you guys. And like, no, you're not ready yet. You're not ready yet. Get out of here, and right? Basically, like just scram. I would say 3 months later, I went to a tryout and played. I ended up laying that guy out. Not on purpose. It was just by chance, right? But I ended up making the team, and I ended up playing with Eric and Ziggy and Chris and players I looked up to. And I held my own and did pretty well. And I went to tournaments in Chicago and California. That's where I first met the Levadas, and we had a full ride sponsorship. And full ride sponsorship wasn't just equipment. It was airfare, it was hotel, it was dinner, it was everything. And I didn't take that for granted. And to this day, I always thank the Levadas for that opportunity that I had back in '92, and still have the ability to see the Levadas on a tournament basis, right? So I was always grateful for that, but I think there was a lesson to be learned. Don't let anyone ever tell you that you don't belong. Don't let anyone ever tell you that you can't make it. Don't let everyone ever tell you you're not good enough. Because you are. You just have to believe it. And that's one of the things that keeps me playing in this sport today. 47 years old. I've been told I can't play 35s, but I'm still playing 35s.
Hell yeah.
Not that 35s is the be-all and end-all, but for me, it's something that I have a passion for. It makes the difference for me. So, and that's all that counts.
That's beautiful, man. I think that's a good spot.
It's a good spot there.
That's some wise words.
Yeah. We really appreciate you being here, man. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah. No problem. It was a lot of fun, gentlemen.
Yeah.
And let me know if I can help in any other way. I'm more than happy to grow your brand.
Appreciate it. We here at No Offsides appreciate having you. And remember, if you're forechecking roller hockey, there's no offsides, so don't let up. I'm Dan Dean.
I'm Justin Wood.
I'm Jason Whitman.
Hey.
Mike, thank you very much, man.
Thanks, gentlemen. Enjoy your week.
Nice to
Yeah,
meet
Cheers,
you, man.
man. You too. See ya.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
No offside. Every episode of No Offsides podcast is brought to you by Champion Hockey. Be a champion.